So, Foundry is a new factory automation game that's just released into early access, and in this video we're going to be going through whether the game is worth playing or not. And to start this one off, the developers have said that most of the core gameplay mechanics are implemented, and they are mostly just adding new content and in-depth gameplay mechanics on top of what's already there, and that's going to be done during the course of early access. They state that the game currently provides about 40 to 60 hours worth of playtime, and that depends on your pacing and your experience. You can essentially just go on to play the game for however long you want to. The things that are already implemented are things like your base building, conveyor belts, pipes, modifiable voxel world, and that's something that's really good with this game. You've got your research crafting, you've got a power grid system, modular buildings, you've got assembly lines, and there's various other smaller features in the game as well. They have stated single player is very stable, multiplayer is a little bit less, but most of the issues are minor and almost everything can be fixed by reconnecting to the server or rehosting the game. And bug fixing is their priority over implementing new features, and at the time they launch into the full release they expect to have a bug-free and very stable version of both single and multiplayer. But I've played this whole game so far, the time I've played, which is around 5 hours or so now, and I've not had any issues in multiplayer whatsoever. And when they jump into the full release, they plan to have more content, distinguishable mechanics, polishing and comfort features. They want to expand the tech tree and make the game longer by adding more machines, crafting recipes and items. They plan to make the world feel more alive and fill it with interesting things to discover. Their team intends to increase the depth of the factory gameplay by adding ways to customize machine behavior and add more complex mechanics like modular power plants. And on top of all of that, they are looking into more experimental features like an optional pressure mechanic, blueprints and trains. Although the game is already moddable, they also want to make it more accessible and easier for people to be able to mod the game. So they don't have a time frame on their early access journey, but I can tell you right now that this game is a lot of fun even being in early access. You start off with basically nothing, just a little drop pod, you've got a basic tutorial that gets you into it, and you will eventually start going through the research tree and your power evolution and things like that to get quite complex factories up and running. And this game is playable solo or multiplayer, between 2 and 4 players officially supported, but there is no hard limit, so you can have more than 4 players in the game. However, the more you have, the more unstable the servers become. And one of the things I really like, I mentioned it about the voxel world, is you can flatten it, you can raise it, you can do what you want with the game world, so that if you wanted to, you could flatten out the whole thing over time and just have your factory all on one floor. Or what you could do is have like some machines on the ground floor, and you could work up and build like a second layer to it. You could do multiple layers if you want to. You start off with the most basic materials and resources and stuff, and machines as well. You eventually go up, you increase through the tiers. Like for an example, with the tier 1 assembler, it's going to take about 6 seconds to produce an item, whereas the tier 2 will take 4 seconds, tier 3 will take 3 seconds. And you also get conveyor belts. The starting one will move 160 items per minute, whereas it just evolves and you get to tier 2 conveyors, which goes from red to yellow, and the yellow one will shift items a lot faster. You've got your typical input and output. You've got logistic containers where you can have an input so that you can, for an example, go from a drone miner. They will pick up your resources, put them through a smelter, make metal plates, and then you can have a conveyor belt from the end of the smelter towards an input for a logistics container, and then you're going to fill up that container with metal plates. There's lots and lots of different ways to build, and when you make more progress into the game, you'll discover new ores that you can go and mine, and some of them can be underground, so you have to do some digging. You get some explosives and stuff. Another thing I really like is if you deconstruct something, it comes back to you 100%. You don't lose any resources. If you deconstruct a building, you actually get the building straight back. And the tech tree has a lot of stuff to do as well. You start with your basics, you can increase your inventory capacity, you can start unlocking more machines in tier 1, then you eventually go up to tier 2 and tier 3. And all of the research is done through science packs, which you have to actually make. So therefore, you're setting up more production lines and eventually automating the production of your science packs. And you're going to have it all the way to where you're fully automating everything. So you've even got the line from the assembler that's making the science packs straight into your research servers, so that all you've got to do is start a new research project and it's going to automatically do everything for you. And yeah, me and Pete together have played around 5 hours of the game so far. And we are still just scratching the surface. We've only got to tier 2 science packs, and if I remember correctly, it goes up to tier 5. It's at least tier 4, but I do believe it goes up to tier 5. And the further you get, the more complex it gets. And you need a lot of space in this game. That's one thing I will say, because we've built our starting factory that's really messy. We've built it in quite a small space. We've got a little bit of space, but we don't have too much spare. And yeah, we've had to completely ignore our factory and the production lines because it's just so hard to navigate through them. But the world is massive. You can go and do all of your exploration. You can scan for new ores. You can set up your factory and everything. And this game, at the moment in early access, is going to cost you, it's about £25. It's got a 10% launch discount. So it's around $30. But what you get with that is a lot of fun. And your power grids and everything are really easy to set up. The whole of your power grid is based on your foundations. So you put down these building blocks or building bricks, whatever you want to call them. They are your foundation. And then if you wanted to, you could have your power grid set up like 500 blocks away. And as long as it's all on a foundation that's connected, it's going to power up your machines that are blocks and blocks away. And the sky is the limit with your progression, really, because, yeah, there is a block, like, say, for an example, the max tier for an assembler is tier 3. You could set up your factory so that you've got, like, 500 assemblers working together to mass produce something. It literally all depends on how much of the game you want to play. And there's decorations and stuff as well, so you can get your factory to how you like the look of it. You've got railings, you've got glass floors, you've got walls, you've got doors and stuff, so you can even have indoor factories working. And it's a really simple process. Once you've gone through the tutorial, it's not actually that hard to grasp. It's going to be like relatively easy to understand how to do everything. Like, for an example, you get a drone miner, then you place down a loader and you set it to output. Then your resources that your drones go and mine, they go into that machine. The loader then puts them out onto a conveyor belt. It goes along the conveyor belt into a loader that's set up for input. And that resource will go straight into a smelter. Then from the smelter, you put an output loader, you put a conveyor belt to an input loader into a logistics container. This sounds quite complex, but once you're in the game and you're setting things up, there's a lot of information. Like, if you get stuck with things, there's loads of information panels that help you out. And they do a really good job of giving you an understanding as to how the systems in the game work. But not only that, if you find, for an example, you're going for metal plates and the resource isn't coming in as fast as you would like it, you can go out and manually mine it as well. In fact, you will start off the game with manual mining, but eventually build up to having it all automated. And there's just a lot of freedom within the game. You can build your factories as big or small as you want them. You can have millions and millions of different machines that are automating production of loads of different materials and resources and stuff that you're going to need to make progress through the different tiers to get even more advanced items. So when it comes to the question, is Foundry worth playing, even at its price in early access, I'm going to say yes, 100% this game is worth playing. And the developers also said about the early access, when they go into the full release, at the moment they have absolutely no plans to change the price. So if you was to grab it right now this second with the 10% launch discount, it's £24.30. If you pick it up now, you're going to pay that price, whereas if they go into 1.0 and have a 10% launch discount for the full release, it's still going to be the exact same price. So yes, this game is a lot of fun. There's so much to do in it that can take hours and hours worth of progress. And I am going to recommend that you play this game. I think it's a really, really good factory automation game. And what we are going to do is leave that video there. Let me know your thoughts and stuff about Foundry in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.